I was talking to my friend today, former Panthers player, actually. And I keep his identity anonymous because he, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, disappeared in the robe and rode off into the sunset. His football days are behind him, but he always asks me, perpetually, how is the Panthers quarterback doing? How is Bryce Young? Sometimes it's how is the small guy? But we all face these questions as Panthers fans. We're all asked about Bryce Young. Pretty much everyone from the outside in notices the height. I don't know much else about him. And whenever I have to answer this question, look, I have a million words. You know me by now. I can talk all day. But whenever confronted with this question, I just go, oh, I'm sort of like Dave Canales during a press conference. It's just a bunch of words come out, but I don't really know like what is going on. Unless you listen to this program, and then we'll tell you what the coach is saying. But you get the point. And I think Bryce Young is going into a season playing right now where we all thought the product would be a lot better. It's been 6 horrific quarters of football. He had 2 good quarters, a good second half. Some people were critical of the last drive against the Cardinals. They blamed the quarterback. I'm not going to go play the blame game with Bryce Young. I did that for 28 minutes on Monday. But today I want to talk about, is this even possible? Because I, like you, I want one thing. I want a competitive season. And I'm thinking about it earlier today. I'm eating lunch and I'm like, the last thing I want is to get to a Sunday in October and be on a haunted hayride. Or be going to try an IPA at the local brewery. Because it's like the Panthers don't matter. You know, all your friends are like, you're a Panthers fan. You can't hang out with us? Oh, you're going to go watch Bryce Young lose? And I want to be the friend that goes, no, I want to watch Bryce Young win. I can't be with you. F off. I'm going to sit here in my cave. That's where I live. And watch the Panthers and work for 14 hours like I did yesterday and bring the best content in the world to my favorite people. That is what I want from this season. And it all starts with the quarterback. It starts and ends with the quarterback. I said there's 2 paths. Can they win 9 games? So you're talking about, at this point, going 9-6 in the last 15 games. I know 50% of people listening are probably like, this guy's crazy. I'm going to shut him off. Can the Panthers go 9-6 in the last 15? What are you, nuts? That's what some people are probably thinking. I think the only path to getting there is one of either Dave Canales or Bryce Young. One of those guys is going to have to be near elite. I say near elite. I think Canales, you're going to have to be talking about him like he's Sean McVay or Kevin O'Connell. He's going to have to be that good of a coach. They're going to have to squeeze this offense like it's a lemon. You know, you like squeeze a margarita and you have nothing left. And then your uncle, who has massive forearms, nothing else but just like these huge muscular forearms, comes over and he's just like squeezing the lemon. He gets a little more juice out of it. That's what the Panthers are going to need from this offense. That's what they're going to need. And it's either going to have to be Canales doing that or Bryce Young. And Bryce Young has something to build off of. That's the good news. But he's going to need to take some more steps in the right direction. Let's start with Dave Canales on the Panthers wide receiving core. So let's go into what Canales had to say about Xavier Legette.
I believe in Xavier. This is a guy that I truly believe, because of the way he's wired, the way that he works at it, the way that he continues to train. He had a great week of practice. He played better. He had some opportunities on the field where the ball didn't go his way. I tried to get him a few early touches. They didn't amount to much, but as the game kind of went on, a few of the other targets, they were close plays. He didn't make them, but, I think it's a matter of just finding opportunities. I believe in him. I believe that, he's approached this the right way and just continues to work. So I'm going to continue to encourage him and be in his corner and push him to, keep striving for that and keep working on his chemistry with Bryce.
Normally I chop the answers up a lot more than that. I don't want you to listen to Canales for 2 minutes because usually you don't have to. You can take it the theme of what he's saying in a couple of words, but there I wanted you to see all of it because I think he gives you so much there. I'm going to go through it line by line. So first, Scott Fowler asks Dave Canales, would benching Xavier Legette give him a reset? So much like Bryce Young had a reset last year, you turn the iPhone off and let it upgrade, then you turn it back on, and all of a sudden there's no longer pop-up windows of spin wheels coming up. It works well. So you give the wide receiver a reset. And I love the way he worded it. I think he got a ton out of the coach. So shout out the Observer, Zetlo, Mike Kay, and Scott Fowler out there. They're doing amazing work. But that is something that I think the Panthers wide receiver needs. So Canales goes on and he goes, Xavier Legette has a tendency to be really hard on himself. I think anyone watching the game is looking at Legette and he's going, I think this guy maybe is a little bit checked out or just something's off mentally because he has regressed completely from last season even. So receiving efficiency, Xavier Legette is at the bottom of the league. He's below Brian Thomas Jr. in terms of week 2 performances. He is near 0 in yards per route. So the yards he gets when he runs a route, it's near 0. And the passer rating when targeted is beneath 10. So Xavier Legette is honestly, statistically, as bad as it gets in his week 2 performance. It's analogous to Young's performance last year, where people are calling him a huge draft bust. Young compared to Jamarcus Russell, Xavier Legette, take your pick of bust wide receivers. I know we know a lot of them. Jonathan Mingo is the one that's going around, and I think a reset could generally help this guy. And I don't think Bryce Young is getting anything from Xavier Legette being on the field. The throw to Bryson Tremaine, where Bryson Tremaine caught it against his body with one hand, Bryce Young is throwing the ball between 3 Cardinals defenders. You look at the bottom of the screen on that play. I watched the All-22. Xavier Legette is wide open. He is wide open. And it was a bad decision by Young. But this, again, I talked about it Monday. There's multiple situations in that game where Bryce could throw it to Xavier Legette and he doesn't do it. Because he remembers, he has the flashback to week 1 where he throws it to Legette. Legette's kind of lazy on the route. It was a bad throw as well, but Eric Murray steps in front of the ball and it's a Jaguars interception. I don't think Young trusts Legette at all. And for that reason, take him out of the game. We can frame it as a reset. I'm sure the publicists at Panthers.com have no problem and no trouble talking about it as if they're sending Xavier Legette to the freaking the Alps or the Colorado Rockies to go sit in a mud bath. Like, frame it however you want. Get him out of the game because I want him to figure it out. I want it to work, but it's not working right now. It's really not working. And Bryson Tremaine is a better option. As much as I rip Idzik for bringing his guy here, the only reason Tremaine is here is because he played under Idzik at Stanford. He's better than Legette at this point by a long shot. How about the play calling? This is going to need to improve if Bryce Young is to lead the Panthers to a victorious decision, or the other path. How can Canales be like Sean McVay? It starts with the play calling. Here is Dave Canales on the play calls.
Of course, I've watched it now 3 times and just kind of looking at, what could I have called here? What could I have called there when they did this coverage? And I'm standing in the back kind of trying to evaluate the coverages live and get us to the best, possible plays there. And I'll be rethinking that drive, at least for today a couple more times. But, I think, execution all across the board, calling the right plays for the group, the protection, making the plays that we had so we can matriculate the ball down there. I thought I was a little bit aggressive on some of those opportunities there.
That's the most ownership I have seen Canales take over the troubles on this offense. Honestly, I can't remember another time he's taken that much accountability. And he doesn't take a ton. He just says, I was a little bit too aggressive at the end of the game. I take credit for that. That's on me. And then he even uses his code word, execution. Execution is the word the Panthers coach uses to say, the guys suck. The players stink. They don't do the right things, even though I'm putting them in the situations to do it. Well, there he even adds himself into that assessment. And I totally agree with what he's saying. Scott Fowler published this in The Observer. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. So Fowler writes, this is on the last drive, talking about the opportunities that were there. Fowler writes, there was plenty of time. What there wasn't was plenty of yardage, nor enough flexibility from Canales. He should have used more screens, quick hitters, Chuba Hubbard in the flat, maybe even a shovel pass to a tight end. Yes, this is true on the final drive. They had enough time, but this is true the entire game against the Cardinals. Why are you running Hunter Renfrow, Bryson Tremaine, Jatavian Sanders 45 yards down the field on streaks? Why are they doing it? It makes no sense. Hunter Renfrow literally cannot, I don't think he can catch a ball unless it's 5 or 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Tremaine, he's raw. He's a long shot to be good in this league. Sanders, he's a serviceable backup tight end at this point. He can catch the ball if it's right in his hands. But besides that, he had some drops that really hurt you. On the first drive or the second drive, I think, where Young threw the interception, Sanders had one right in his hand. It would have set them up, I think, at the 35. It would have been good position. And he drops it. So when you ask these guys to make big plays down the field, they're not good. We all know the story on Legette. He can't do it. Why are you throwing it 35 yards down the field to anyone other than McMillan? There's so much opportunity underneath the play, the interception, where the Cardinals blitzed and Young kind of just threw it up. He was looking at McMillan the entire time. I blame Canales a little bit there even. I think still Young takes the blame. You need to protect the ball, sure. And also you need to audible there. You need to say, Renfrow, hey, do a hitch because you have 3-on-2 on the outside. Get a hitch there. You just dump the ball off quick. It's a gain of 20 or 30 down the field. They need to set that up more. So this is more of how does Canales become McVay? He puts his quarterback in positions to win. Does anyone have a problem with Bryce Young being a dink and dunk quarterback? Does anyone have an issue? Watching what you have seen the first 2 weeks, do you have any issue with the Panthers quarterback being a dink and dunk quarterback? I would much rather you don't have 340 yards, you don't throw the ball down the field, you just take what the defense gives you, you check it underneath, you do a bunch of quick little slants and hitches, and you just drive the ball down the field. You own the time of possession. I have no issue with that. No one should have any issue with Bryce Young being a bona fide dink and dunk quarterback. And for whatever reason, Canales, to a certain extent, I'm not saying he is completely fallible, that he should be fired, but he calls the offense like he has Josh Allen or Justin Herbert back there sometimes. He's like, all right, the quarterback should freaking scroll out. Like Big Ben has 3 linebackers on him and shakes them off and throws a ball on a line like Justin Herbert 45 yards down the field. Like Bryce Young is physically incapable of doing these things. And I blame the coach a little bit for not being grounded in that. Like the guy is limited, whether it's the height, the arm strength, the IQ at the line of scrimmage. I was going to go through thing after thing with the quarterback. He's limited. Like, put him in a position to win. Let him take what the defense gives him, these quick hitters, take the yards that are there, whether it's at the end of the game where Canales faced some criticism, the coach said he was too aggressive, or early in the game where I think there's plenty of opportunity to do that. Bryce Young could be without some integral pieces on the offensive line. Here is Dave Canales talking about Chandler Zavala, who will be replacing Robert Hunt, who is out with torn biceps. He could miss the rest of the season, just like Austin Corbett, who had an MCL sprain. Here is Canales on Hunt's replacement.
Yeah, we got to evaluate all the guys. We got to kind of see how the week goes. But right now, the plan is to get Chandler in there and to be able to, we'll have Cade. So get those guys back out there playing together.
I know a lot of people have been skeptical of this decision at the least. online, people wondering why Canales isn't going with Brady Christensen over Chandler Zavala. We all have terrible flashbacks. It's like the hangover that never leaves. Thinking about 2023, Bryce Young taking 62 sacks and having a terrible rookie year that honestly scarred him all the way up until this point. I think he's still scarred from the rookie season, to be honest. And at the center of that, no pun intended, because he's a guard, Chandler Zavala, who was horrific in 2023. And he's been this developmental project in your system for years. I honestly thought they were going to cut him in 2024. They kept him around. He's here now. And I don't think Dave Canales is giving you a conclusive answer there. I think he's kind of leaving the door open, saying we have to evaluate the situation. We got to see who we like better, and Christensen could play. We're going to see how the week goes. I think it will be a lot of that. I could see Zavala having the Josh Nijman treatment, where he has a shaky game and they kind of just throw him and say, you know what, Christensen's in now. I think that could happen. Now, Mike K writes, this is per PFF, but Mike K was posted it. He says, Zavala replaces Robert Hunt. Meanwhile, Zavala saw 13 games last season and started 2. He didn't allow a sack or a QB hit and only relinquished, that's a Mike K word, 3 quarterback hurries. He only relinquished 3 quarterback hurries. So I guess the story with this guy is he played well down the stretch for you. I think he played really well in the preseason. But then again, you had Ja'Tyre Carter and who was the other guy playing guard for you in the preseason? The 2 guards the Panthers had, these practice squad guys, oh my gosh, they don't belong in the NFL. So Zavala came in, I think it was in the game against Pittsburgh, and it made all the difference in the world. So maybe he builds on that. Maybe you get long-term a backup guard. It took you years to develop the guy, and maybe it works out. But Christensen's there if you need him. I don't feel terrible about the offensive line, to be honest. I think more of this is in Bryce's control. I think what this comes down to is, can the quarterback diagnose a blitz? And combined Canales and Young, can you get the pre-snap operation fixed? You saw Damian Lewis doing some weird stuff during that game I haven't seen him do. It looks like Damian Lewis was making the call, then hitting Corbett to get the snap. There's something else going on. I don't know if they've always done that. But can you fix the pre-snap operation? Can the quarterback audible? Can he make adjustments to the line of scrimmage? And Canales, can you put the quarterback in a freaking position to win? Instead of throwing Hunter Renfrow 40 yards down the field on flies, can you just put him 5 yards underneath on hitches? I know it's probably not what he wants to do. Do you think Hunter Renfrow wants to sit in the middle of the field and get cracked? This guy was on a farm helping his uncle a few months ago. I'm not even joking. That literally is what happened. He went from helping the family business to getting cracked on hospital balls from the Panthers quarterback. But I guess this is what happens when you sign up for this. They gave him the raise because of this. And can the Panthers survive with what they have right now? You get Jalen Coker back, and then I think that completely opens up the offense. Because then you have another wide receiver who can go downfield. But right now, you have to beat the Falcons. Can Canales get out of the quarterback's way? Can Bryce Young get out of his own way? Diagnose a blitz, know it's coming, and make the right choice? That would have been a 10-point swing. You win that game against Arizona if he's able to do that. And can you beat this Falcons team that's hot? And I'm going to save it. I'm not going to talk about it now, but I could talk about it for a very long time. It's probably going to come on Wednesday's show. The Falcons have the opposite of what the Panthers have, which is draft picks from the past 2 seasons producing. A defensive tackle from Oregon, 2024 4th-round pick. Forgot his name, don't have it in front of me. He had a sack. James Pierce Jr., rookie from Tennessee. Go Vols, half a sack. Jalen Walker, 1 sack in Sunday's outing. While safeties Xavier Watson, Billy Bowman came down with their first career interceptions. Young guys making plays in Atlanta. And that defense looked good. They looked good. They made J.J. McCarthy look terrible. And now the Panthers get the Falcons at home. This is a game. This is a game. I'm telling you, this is probably the most important game of the season. It's a must win It is a must win because I'm telling you, I am not going to breweries to try unique IPAs and going on haunted hayrides in October on my Sunday. I am sitting in my cave and watching the Panthers win and making podcasts. This is the tone. Stay tuned for more.